trucks, and it was a Renault truck, and they were so wore out the front end was going as a snub noser, and I was hauling gas. And when they got the port open, we was hauling gas, and we couldn't go on the road because they bombed her out, so we was driving on the railroad track. Well, here on our railroad tracks, you know, when they dig in, they kind of landscape it, but over there it was that rock. They didn't bother, they're sticking out. And I'm driving down this son of a bitch hanging out like this, and the car rocks, the wheel hit her, and she come back and she laid that thumb back. So anyway, you know, as long as you don't go to the hospital with that shit, as long as you got two legs, you know, to keep you. So they got one of these sticks like you put in your mouth to look at your tonsils, and they taped her up, you know, and then I could still hold my hand this way and drive. Well, when they had this airplane gas, we dumped them out in the field, and we raised the hoist up and let them go, and them Arabs, they run like a son of a bitch because they figured they're going to blow up, you know. They had 12 here and 12 there, so they wouldn't get them all at one time. Well, and about, just healing pretty good, and about 2 weeks later, I done the same goddamn thing again. I had her back down in, I got caught, and so I broke her twice. But it broke the bones back in here pretty good.
And then they jumped over to Sicily then. From Africa, they went to Sicily.
Oh, yeah, I took an awful ride there.
Were you in right at the first one in there too then?
Yes, I was the first one on Lakota Beach. And when we went in, it was so rough going over, they said if it hadn't been such a big operation, they would have canceled it. The waves are about 12 feet. And these LCIs come up like that and come down, and they bust right in two. And everybody drowned it, you know. And I was in there. I was driving an amphibian duck, and we loaded with concertina wire and sand, burlap. And our job was the first we let the pressure down. And our job was when we get to the beach is to unroll this so the tanks and jeeps could come in. They had something to go on. Otherwise they'd sink in the sand. Well, we was coming in there, and this here awful waves were coming up, and it's a damn spotlight. And it was dark when they dumped us out, and that rough water they dumped us in, and we went everywhere but upside down. But anyway,
And you were driving a duck?
Yes, it was in a 2.5 ton duck. And we figured about 4 miles out. And I thought if that son of a bitch and light would go out, and finally they hit her, boy, they knocked that light out. But there was a wall, that's what I told you, there was a wall of fire like this. There was just machine guns. There was a cove back here on the beach. That's where we were headed for. And that was your designation. And I had this Lieutenant Lundstrom. He was from Michigan. And he reached over and he said, if nothing else, he said, I'm going in with one of the best men I've ever known. He says, afterwards, he told me, he says, you don't fear nothing, you don't say nothing. He didn't know how goddamn scared I was, I couldn't talk. So anyway, we come up to this wall of fire like this, and the wave hit it like this, and she took us down under and come back up, and we was on the other side, the steel machine gun, we had one hole through the canvas, and we made her in.
Missed you by all but one shot.
Well, just for luck, we hit it just right, and just come on in. So then we had to dump that off and roll her out. It was about...
Well, weren't they shooting at you when you were rolling it out?
They shot from all angles. But our infantry was already in there with us. They went in at the same time, you know. I don't know how they got in there. I don't know nothing about it. There was paratroopers in behind. They was in there.
That's the 82nd Airborne went in Sicily. And that's where the Navy shot down several C-47s with paratroopers in.
Yeah.
And that operation. Now, how long did it take to go across Sicily?
Well, it was 39, I never forget that, 39 days.
39 days.
In 39 days we was back in Africa. And just shortly after that...
Well, you went back to Africa after...
Oh, sure. Yeah, here. Where the hell did we go to Sicily? Salerno. Here in September. July, we landed at Sicily in July. And in September we went in Salerno. Salerno Beach.
That'd be Italy.
Southern Italy.
Yeah.
That was a bastard there.
Yeah.
Then we went in, they were waiting for us there, and we come in, they opened the doors up. and dropped the ramp. They opened them up and shit, they were shooting right direct into it.
You were in an LST then?
Yeah.
And then where the doors open up and the ramp drops and you drive your vehicles
Yeah.
right up on shore?
Yeah. But I got out of it okay, but some of the rest of them didn't. I was the first one. But then the bad part of that was some of them, they dropped the ramp down, they're too far out. And these little guys, they come carrying motors on their back, and you guys ain't going to want to hear this, but they was carrying those motor plates on their back, and the little guys didn't weigh over 110 pounds. They come off the end of that, and down they went, and shit, they drowned it right there. Shit,
they had them strapped on so they couldn't get them off under the water.
A lot of them drowned to that.
Now, those mortar bases, heavy steel bases.
It was over 100 pounds.
So that was
120 pounds.
Pretty good anchor.
Down they went, Yeah.
And
it was in there. It was a tough go. We got in there, probably 12, 14 miles. And then they pushed us back. And we couldn't stand. They kept pushing us back, and they told us we made our last stand. It was the next stand was the water, and it was going in the water. And that night, I heard the goddamnest racket. I couldn't explain to nobody what it was like, but they said there was over 200 bombers in there. These bombers came from Africa, and they pattern bombed ahead. Well, the next day we had clear sailing.
Wiped them out.
Wiped them out. We had clear sailing. We was on our way to Naples then.
And then
but there's so many casualties, Jesus Christ, there was heads and arms flying all over, when you think about it, it's enough to drive you crazy.
And you
just keep going, that's all.
Invasion in Africa, then Sicily, and then Salerno. That's 3. And the next one would be Anzio. The next invasion that you were on.
We went into Africa, and we went into Salerno, and then we went into Anzio, and then we went into southern France. 5 of them.
So he was on 5 invasions, leading the way.
How we get through them, I don't know. There's a power greater than ours. You're supposed to be here or you wouldn't be here, that's all. Lot of luck involved. And now I think the toughest we had of all places was Italy. All combined all together. Well, the weather, it rained all the time, it was mud all the time, and you get up in the mountains, and you couldn't get off the main road because it's so steep down there. They had that filled in little gardens, and there was no bottom to it.
I remember seeing pictures. I was still in high school, reading the current events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They had pictures of these mules hauling ammunition up the mountain.
Oh yeah, that's the only way they could get there. Yeah. The little donkeys.
Yeah.
Burros. My Grandpa told me he come from Switzerland. He said, of course, you'll never see a burro, He said, you know what they are. Hell, I didn't. I seen lots of them bastards. But little did I would he ever dream you'd ever be in a war, Well,
that was your grandpa here.
Yeah, he come from Switzerland, Rupert. The other grandpa, he come from Scotland. The other one, he come in World War I. He was fighting with the British, and they captured him. And 2 of them, 2 brothers, John and Theodore. Then I don't know what deals they made them days, but if they'd fight with Americans, they let them out. They got the citizenship, so they fought with Americans, got the citizenship. That's how they got in here.
That's how they became a citizen here. Yeah. But anyway, and you got up to Anzio. That was one of the landing wasn't so tough, but from then on it was pure hell.
Once you got in there, tough.
And our bombs and their bombs and
well. They had that old Anzio. I got some pictures of it. You guys will see them probably in there. I know they're in there. We call the Anzioani. It's a railroad gun. And we feared of all the things we feared. I'd rather be in the front line any time than the rear. I mean, nothing to do with the rear. Down on the beach. Because that's where Anzioani hit. And that shot 20 miles down. It had 1,100-pound projectile on. People argue about that. It had 1,100-pound projectile at a range of 29 miles, but she'd veer a mile this way.
Oh, could